and we'll do introductions afterwards. Sound good? All right. So yep, Ed is going to give an update on the Maine Med grant before he has to run off to another meeting. So take it away, Ed.
Great, thanks. So we successfully put into the city's coffers the grants for 3 of the 5 neighborhood associations. The 4th, Parkside Neighborhood Association, actually got their money directly. They requested the money go directly into their bank account, which we did for them because they were using it for sort of a planning type process. The other neighborhood, the West End, Western Prom, and Libbytown, all of their monies have been deposited into the City of Portland's account directly from Maine Med. And Nell Donaldson from Planning Office has been the liaison for that. She has put all those funds should be in the city, and they are earmarked for the very specific items and projects that the neighborhood association submitted as part of their grant proposal to the Maine Med Neighborhood Advisory Committee. To my knowledge, none of those dollars have been expended by the city yet. A variety of both COVID, bids coming in much higher than what they had expected. And I think the overall challenge of the city operating this year has caused, I believe, all of those projects to be put on hold. They're hoping to rebid this coming year. My thought is if any neighborhood association wants to change the use of any of those funds, that as far as I'm concerned, work directly through Nell Donaldson at the city, and then simply send a communication through one of your reps. That would be me currently, although we'll talk about membership in a second, to the Maine Med Neighborhood Advisory Committee. It's really not up to us, in my opinion, the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, to micromanage what each neighborhood association wants to do with their funds. We approve the grants as written, but obviously a lot has changed, and as the time goes by, there may be new priorities that neighborhood organizations want to put those dollars to. But those monies, the amounts set aside in the city for the projects that were in your grant proposal. And so if, in my opinion, if either the city or the neighborhood association wants to make any changes, both sides, the city and the neighborhood association, would need to agree to those changes, and then just for record keeping, communicate that to the neighborhood advisory committee. So we allocated a total of $80,000 this past year in 2020, and that represented 3 years worth of Maine Med contributions. They under the agreement, they have to put $30,000 a year into the neighborhood grant process administered by the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. And so there were 3 years piled up before the committee was organized to get that out. As of January 1st, there'll be an additional $30,000 contribution from Maine Med, and there's still $10,000 left from, because there was $90,000 in the pot. We gave out 80, so the 10 plus the 30 coming in January 1st, which means the Neighborhood Advisory Committee will have $40,000 available to grant during 2021, should they see fit to do so. Before I go on to membership, I would maybe pause. And are there any questions, comments, reactions to the grant making process or where things stand?
Yeah, just a quick clarification. You mentioned some of those figures. Could you back up and say, so as of January, and because I'm taking notes, so as of, and I guess we're recording as well, but as of January 1st, there's an additional 30K?
30, right. Maine Med puts in $30,000 per year.
Yep.
So they have not yet put in the 2021, obviously. So as of January 2021, the committee will have the $30,000 for 2021 from Maine Med, plus the $10,000, which we did not award during this previous year. So there'll be a balance of $40,000 in the committee's coffers available for a grant-making round in 2021.
Good, thank you.
I guess my question is, do you think there would be a possibility there'd be a change in the grant-making process so that it's not just so it's not a competitive process, and each group could just, write a proposal for their equal, equal proportion and be done with it. I know there are, reasons for doing it the way that it's currently set up, but it didn't really work that way. And it was a lot more work to come up with these competitive bids or proposals. And then it just got allocated evenly anyway.
I think that'll be up for discussion with the NAC, the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. We discussed that came up during this year's, and we've been meeting monthly. So there's $40,000, so that would be $8,000 per each of the 5 neighborhood organizations. That would be certainly the easiest way to do it. So that'll be up to the committee to decide. This past year, your other Libbytown neighborhood rep, Brett, chaired the grant subcommittee and did a phenomenal job pulling together all the different thoughts among the committee members in terms of coming up with a process that, you're right, Zach, it did end up being, St. John Valley did not submit a proposal, so the $80,000 was split 4 ways among the 4 neighborhood organizations. So they each got the $20,000. But that would be something that, as long as I'm on the committee, I'd love to hear people's thoughts on, what Libbytown would prefer, what process, and if there's something specific. There was some hope expressed by NAC committee members that we might get we were hoping that maybe some neighborhood organizations would partner on joint projects, since we all are in relative close proximity to one another. There was some thought that a combined planning process among 2 or more of the neighborhood organizations might be a good use of these dollars. They're not big dollars, but it might be able to hire an intern or a grad student, for example, to work on a joint neighborhood planning project. But there's nothing carved in stone for how the process should be put together, or what those funds should be used for. I feel like I kind of dodged your question, but that's the answer.
Right. I also just say that our new member, Todd, is more or less on this call.
Great. So I guess to that effect.
Sorry, I'm a little late.
Hey, so I guess if Maureen or someone could just send an email, even if you just send it to me, formally appointing Todd to the committee, then I can send that around to the rest of the committee members and Maine Med. Former District 3 Councilor Brian Batson has been hired by Maine Med. In addition to his nursing duties, he's also working part-time as their community outreach person. So he'll be supposed to be helping support the work of the committee. We have our next meeting in December. And so, Todd, I hope you'll be able to join that. If you just send me an email or whatever, I'll send you the date of the December meeting. I've been the chair of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee for this past year because no one else wanted to, in all honesty. So it was by default. I think I ended up taking over from Moses from St. John Valley. I have asked the committee to please see if someone else would be willing to step up, and we could appoint them at the December meeting to chair next year, because I think it's good to have that position rotate. And I guess I would also offer that if there's anyone else from Libbytown that would like to take my place, I'm more than happy to step aside whenever, if there's someone else that would really like to be on that committee. I've enjoyed the work, but again, if there's someone else that really has a desire to be on the committee, it meets once a month. There are occasional subcommittees. We had a grant subcommittee. I'm actually currently on the noise plan, the sound study subcommittee. So there's some subcommittee work if people are willing to, but I don't want to put Libbytown in a tough spot of having to find another person right away. But as I said, anytime someone else would like to step up, I'm more than happy to relinquish my seat to another Libbytown advocate.
Okay. So I'll put the word, thank you for that, Ed. I'll put the word out and then I'll get an email started
Okay.
I'll sort of start that process if that's okay with you and with Todd, and we'll get that going. All right.
Great. Anything else regarding Maine Med?
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Well, Zach twisted my arm to do it, so I'm happy to twist someone else's arm, Todd. And I do want to, for the record, express our thanks to Brett. Brett was a tireless member of the committee, and as I said, really pulled the whole grants proposal to process together last year, and the committee really appreciated that. So Libbytown has been well served.
All right. That's great.
All right, sorry, I got to dash off to another Zoom call, but
Yep.
thanks, guys.
Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate the update.
Thank you.
All right. So I guess now I'll start the meeting since Ed had to leave quickly. And so we sort of started the meeting quickly without going through the introductions. Libbytown Neighborhood Association meeting for November 18th. I'm Maureen Morse. I live on Whitney Avenue. I'm the chairperson. And then I guess I'll just call on people to introduce themselves, starting with Zach.
Zach Beretz, past chair.
And Fred.
Fred Dillon, secretary.
Brian, thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Brian Eng. I am here representing the Douglas Commons project over on Douglas Street.
And Maeve.
Maeve Pistrang on Bolton Street, and I'm vice chair.
Charles.
Hi, I'm Charlie O'Rourke. I'm just a neighbor, and I live on 79. I live at 79 Douglas Street.
Welcome. And then I see Todd down there. Oh, you're muted, Todd.
How's that?
Better.
It's Todd and Karen Reynolds on Massachusetts Ave.
Excellent. And then looks like David's here as well.
Hi, David Packard, PK Realty. We own 17 Westfield Street and 1006 Congress.
You have significantly more hair than the last time I saw you.
And a lot more gray, too.
Wow. Well, welcome. Just as the first agenda item, I was just going to put forward the motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes. Does anyone have any changes or additions to the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve as presented.
Actually, I was going to say before approving, how many people caught the false thing that I put in at the end of the minutes? Just to check that you didn't. So you see, you didn't. Nobody's really reading these minutes. I said that Jello Biafra was our guest speaker last time, and he was not.
I think Margaret caught it, didn't she? I saw someone mention it.
She's the only one that caught it, so
Yeah.
I'll remove
Yeah,
that.
I caught that Margaret caught it. So I second the motion. Any questions? All in favor? Okay. So moved. And then Damon can't be here tonight, but he sent a treasurer's report. We have $287. And if anybody needs clink bags, please let him know. And other than that, I think I will turn the floor over to Brian, who represents the Douglas co-op project that'll be happening on Douglas Street, which was recently approved by City Council, which is exciting. So I don't know if you want to just outline a little bit for maybe those of us who haven't heard, what the project is in brief, and the time, I don't know, whatever you'd like to talk about it, see if anyone has any questions.
And before you start, Brian, I'm glad you got that Maine Med update. So sort of the upshot is that we have $20,000, and sort of the easiest thing to do would be to hand it over to Parks Department for improvements to Doherty Field, somewhere around the around the playground, which is also around your project. And I think that, you know, those funds would be well spent to in that sort of somewhere in the figurative triangle of the playground, your project, and the abutters preferences. That's you, Charlie. Those are my sort of thoughts. So just something to keep in mind as we move forward with.
No, I think that's of tremendous interest, and I certainly, you know, would welcome Charlie's input on the subject as well. I think, you know, staying on that for a moment before I step away. I mean, there certainly are questions about, you know, parking and that type of thing, you know, and basically usage of the park, condition of different facilities. So I think it would be pretty easy to spend $20,000, you know, either whether it would be direct capital to go in and do things, or, you know, coordinating with the city about coming up with some sort of good plan. And again, I would defer to Charlie on that topic, because I think, you know, you obviously rightly have a lot more, you know, specific opinions about that. So I don't know if we want to talk about that right now before I, you know, talk about the project more specifically.
I mean, I'm really thrilled that this area is getting some attention. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't have any specific input, but I probably will as we start to get into discussions. I have an interesting thing to report, though. The basketball court that is decrepit has their skate park is expanding itself, and they've built some concrete structures, or a concrete structure. Oh, it's some cinder blocks put together and some rails and some different things, which I think they all understand are temporary, but I just thought that was interesting. And it wasn't just little, it was like 20 somethings that were out there doing it. So just a little boots on the ground information.
Yeah, I noticed that. I took a walk today and I saw the Porter ramp, and Carrie had seen a few days ago. It's like a bunch of kids. They were taking up cleaning the weeds out of the cracks.
There's a big community out in Utah called Daybreak, where they have these pocket parks throughout the neighborhood. And rather than, this is like a community of like 20,000, but rather than create a skate park, like a single skate park, they've created these little pocket parks, and they've integrated skatable features with the parks. So you have like a seat wall that has an edge that can be grinded on and skated on, and like a ramp, you know, that's built into it. And it's kind of cool and sculptural, visually interesting. And that was an idea we pitched to Ethan Hipple, I think, at one point when they were talking about the skate park expansion, was like creating a loop around Doherty Field, that like you have these little moments, like you have a bench and you have a seat wall, and you can skate it, and it creates like some activation around the whole, you know, throughout the whole park. I think it's a cool idea to consider. We're always trying to integrate skatable feature in there.
As someone who goes by the skate park a lot, it's very, very well used to the point where it definitely needs expansion. And we had someone on here a couple of months ago where they got a kind of a grassroots effort to try to expand the skate park. And it looks like it needs it to me.
Nick, I think that's a great idea. You could be sitting there quietly on a bench, staring out, you know, into nothing, when suddenly a skateboard comes dive bombing.
Nick, is there some kind of I feel like I knew this 6 months ago, but is there some kind of a master plan that would like indicate where, like, and I know you guys got money, we're supposed to get money from the hospital for, I think, the basketball court. Like, is there the potential to like move some of those things around and expand the skate park?
I think it's all pretty well in flux. There is a master plan, but I think it dates back to what, Zach, like 2009 or 2012 or something for the park.
Wait, wasn't that just redone?
They Regina did a plan for the play area, for the playground, which we're actually meeting to review proposals for play equipment this week. So that she's done some work on the play area.
Nick,
Who was
you
the
keep me in
young?
the loop for that?
What's that, Liz?
You keep me in the loop for that?
Yeah, definitely. Eric, our neighbor there on Douglas Street, is on the review committee as well.
Cool.
Who was the young man that was on our meeting maybe 3 or 4 months ago that was trying to do some fundraising to do some improvements to the park?
Yeah, I'd have to look through my notes to recall his name. He follows us on Instagram, so I can always reach out to him and see how it's going. I haven't gotten an update from him in a while.
I'll pull the minutes, but I mean, there was.
Yeah, I'll go back through and maybe reach out to him and see where they're at, because I hadn't heard anything from them for a while. So.
I mean, Doherty Field could really be like it already has like the ball fields and the soccer fields and all that side of active recreation, but the skate park is obviously so successful. You could build off of that and have Doherty Field be like kind of the action sports park of Portland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that doesn't mean that you have to have action sports sprawling everywhere, but like, why doesn't Doherty Field house like a good pump track or BMX track or something?
Pump track is a great idea. And so I think, Zach, you raised a great point, talking about this funding. And, now that I see that Liz and Nick are on the call as well, certainly the Douglas Commons group does want to be thinking about how we activate and relate to, all of the recreational amenities. And I think we're tremendously supportive of it. And we want our ultimate design to be very well integrated into whatever happens. So, I think your idea of using that $20,000, to be more coordinated and I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Has there been any synergy between the park and Factory 3 that you guys are aware of? I guess I could just ask Patrick about that. There's a little maker shop on the other side of St. James Street. No idea. You guys maybe have these contacts already, but when I was doing outreach earlier, I know the soccer person, the swimming person, and the baseball person. So, it might make sense at some point to just and I'm looking at Nick, but it might make makes sense at some point to just get everybody in a room and see if there's,
Absolutely.
I would totally, I think that is an excellent idea. And that's been sort of a challenge with all the facilities that are there. There's not an integrated system. The ball, they're all in their own little silos and they use it. But in terms of it would be interesting to know if there was some flexibility around those little league fields, because the opportunity for the skate park to be, a different thing or whatever. But I don't know if there is flexibility around moving, or if it's even needed. But anyway, I think that's a great idea. To me, it's such an incredible asset. And one of my comments, I really am disappointed the city isn't going to use it to continue to make it really into something terrific. But the city's really not ever realized and it's been in fact a really neglected area. There were once tennis courts where the skate park was, and those fell apart. They just were never maintained. They cracked and crumbled. They were much lower, and it's a wet area, which is part of the problem. Another thing, I don't know if I'll tell you that when the skate park before it came there was a lot of mixed feelings in the neighborhood. The skate community raised quite a bit of money. I mean, Fred may know the number there, but I recall them raising a significant amount of money. So they're a force to be harnessed. And I'll tell you that I was not necessarily really warm to the idea of a skate park going there, because, what would you rather have, tennis courts or a skate park? As a person that lives within eyeshot of it, I've changed my thoughts about that really quite a bit. So it's so mainstream, and I just think it's definitely a group of people to be harnessed, and also they're the most incredible litter bugs, and I'm all for the facility and everything, but it is just it gets to be a mess over there. Another comment I feel very strongly that there should not ever be lights in the evening. the days are really long in the summertime. To increase a population of people there after dark, I'm opposed to. They've also built themselves a fire pit, which is kind of interesting, and I'm pretty ambivalent about it. I'm more against it, I suppose, just because of the obvious reasons. But at the same time, there's something really cool about the idea of there being a fire pit around a skate park. I mean, so I don't know. So that's my little ramble for right now. Yeah.
Charlie, I love your
Yeah.
open-minded ambivalence. It's delightful.
I mean, and maybe that is a good segue. I think, Zach, I mean, I guess you were asking me, but it seems like everybody on the call seems to think that those funds would be well directed towards, trying to focus some real planning on the recreational amenities overall. And certainly we want to make sure that as we progress in our planning work, that we, integrate our work on the former West School site for Douglas Commons in a way that is integrated into that thinking. So I don't know who leads the charge on that, but I think it makes sense.
Are you talking about Maine Medical Center funds?
Yeah.
Yes, Liz. So Ed came and
Okay,
gave a
I missed
presentation, I
that.
think,
Sorry.
and because you're on that committee, right, Liz, as a West End representative, is that right?
Parkside, actually.
You're a
Or
Parkside
because of,
representative.
I can technically play Parkside because of Peloton.
From Peloton. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Ed quickly came in just to talk about those funds.
Yeah.
So
Does LNA have the right to redirect those funds to other locations? I mean, to other purposes? Is that, Zach, is that your understanding?
Well, that was Ed's recommendation.
Okay, yeah, no, I think as long as they haven't been spoken for, like as long as the city hasn't put it out to bid and like chosen a team to rebuild the basketball court or whatever, I think you could just come back to the neighborhood advisory committee and say, hey, we decided to do this instead. Can you just give us your blessing?
You said there was a simple formality where you had to kind of have mutual agreement between whatever the committee, kind of chairs, name is a woman, I think, and the neighborhood group, and it would be as simple as that, really.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a big deal at all. I mean, the goal is just to give money to neighborhoods to do good work, what they want to do, and the application process was just to make sure that there is some like accountability in how the money is spent. That was really.
Yeah, the invoice says Doherty Field improvements, so it's already halfway there.
So I think that means
think
you guys can
Nick,
hire whoever you want to do that too.
I'm-
It's not like you have. I know that the check got written to the city, but I think it was just because you guys didn't have a way to receive the money.
I think wasn't the check written, all the checks written to the city?
No, a couple of the neighborhood associations have 501c3 status and bank accounts, and so they were able to receive their own money.
I think he said only one received it directly.
Okay.
But
the point being, anyone who could receive it themselves received it.
Yeah.
So. But I think it's your choice how to spend it. It's not, it doesn't have to go through a city spending process. That's the point.
Yeah. There's well, I hate to, I'm not one to volunteer people for things, but Nick is pretty well positioned, being familiar with the playground, the housing, and being a neighbor, and being in close proximity to other neighbors to sort of make a recommendation on where and how those funds could be put to good use.
I mean, is it so those so it needs to be spent in Doherty Field? Is that
Not necessarily? Some of the money was earmarked for the Denny's traffic circle, and it was written not ambiguously enough, I guess. And I said, well, I'd really like to have permanent landscape lights shining up on a few trees. Parks Department got very edgy on that suggestion, saying, well, you know, it'd have to go to the city manager, and I don't really feel comfortable. And, you know, wouldn't you just prefer to have Pandora lights there in the season? And I said, well, absolutely not, because
there are just so many projects that we could do. So
is there a list anywhere?
Probably. Zach probably has several.
Maybe consolidating the list would be a good first step, and then
I mean,
then you can try to rank them.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, selfishly, like I'd love to see, like, you know, seating, some benches or something. I mean, there's all kinds of improvements we could make to Doherty Field. But then I think about the broader neighborhood and like what's best for the whole neighborhood. Like, man, maybe it'd be cool to commission like a really killer mural under the bridge, you know, or something like that.
That was what I wanted to do, but the DOT is like not into it, unfortunately.
So the city controls the city controls the asphalt oval by Denny's, though, right? Or does DOT have that, or is that actually
that's I mean, that's in the right of way.
Yeah.
So
the center island.
That's the cities. So that's the cities then, right? Because it's in the right of way.
No, I mean, I think ultimately it would be DOT.
Oh, because it's a state highway or something like that, basically.
Yeah, I just think their jurisdiction kind of trumps the cities.
So that's where Doherty Field's just a lot easier, right? Because you don't need to get DOT sign off on any of the stuff.
Pretty much anything, pretty much anything we proposed that wasn't like Doherty Field related got complicated pretty quick, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how you guys remember it, but it seemed like anything outside of like field improvements got trickier. But
well, again, I think, you know, Zach, if you really are the keeper of these lists, you know, historical in your head and not shared with anyone else or otherwise, you know, I think that might be a good first step to just try to create something that people can react to. And
okay.
I would say,
I had some email conversation with, I guess, Alex Marshall at some point, and he was like, and I brought it to this group. I'll try to dig it up, but it was essentially like, well, you know, we could really use money for pathways and, I don't know, benches maybe. I think pathways was one, benches was maybe one, and parking was definitely
parking.
One. And so he said, well, no thanks on the parking, but you know, those other things we could, because, you know, they're kind of working on a bare bones budget on the playground. So playground adjacent things that was, you know, very interested in getting some extra support from, you know, and just from a pragmatic point of view, you know, it's, you know, we've been waiting for 4 years for this money that, you know, I would eliminate as many roadblocks as possible to spending it.
Mm-hmm.
well, and I think this was your original question, Zach, and now that Liz is on, I think she can affirm this as well, that, you know, at least for our process, we certainly would love to, you know, ride along with you on however you choose to, you know, spend those funds and make sure that any of our planning and the work that we're doing, you know, is well integrated with. And I think that's where that list of priorities would be valuable. I think we'd want to internalize that list to the extent it's relevant to the work that we're going to do. And then I guess I'll segue now, just, you know, use this opportunity to thank the association overall for your support of our proposal from the beginning. And then, you know, I'm going to, in no particular order, you know, shout out to Nick, who really did very specific work on our proposal and, you know, made it great. And Charlie, my gosh, the amount of time you came in to just, you know, be heard over and over again, you know, and Zach as well. And I'm sure I'm, you know, leaving other folks off. It really was a really inspiring effort. I think it's an underdog story, and I can, you know, go into that in more or less detail if anyone wants to hear about it. But I think, you know, we're thrilled, we're excited, we're a little bit shocked in terms of how it all played out. But you know, on Monday night, you know, for those who aren't familiar with the specifics, you know, there were two competing proposals to redevelop the former West School site. Our proposal, Douglas Commons, which includes a limited equity housing cooperative, which is the part that Liz and I, along with our partner Matt Peters, are working on specifically, as well as a low-income housing tax credit rental project with the Xanten Company. That group together constituted Douglas Commons, and we were being considered along with a proposal called Douglas Yards, which was a condominium project proposed by Jack Soley and Tim Hebert of Hebert Construction, as well as a limited equity, a low-income housing tax credit project put forward by Avesta, as well as building 10, kind of $500,000 single-family homes on the site as well. And so those were the two competing proposals. Liz can correct my timeline on this if I get it too far off, but basically an RFP went out this spring, I think in the March timeframe, with a due date of June. And that's when the two proposals went in, was in June. And the city has an interesting process for how it handles the disposition of city-owned land right now, because I think that the number one priority in the city's comprehensive plan is for the use of city-owned land that they don't need is housing. So the housing committee both was sort of the primary author, I believe, of the RFP, and also the first committee to take it up. But in matters of city property, the Economic Development Committee is the committee that actually has authority to make decisions about city-owned property. So the RFP was kind of a joint effort between the Housing and the Economic Development Committee. And then the Housing Committee reviewed, it was a city staff review of the two proposals, which included the Housing Committee, the Economic Development Committee, and other members of city staff. And they scored the two projects, and I think some of you are probably aware of this, but the scores came in relatively close. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think, say, Douglas Yards scored like an 88 or an 89 or something like that, and our project scored like an 86 or an 87. So they were, very close on the scoring system. And then the Housing Committee took up evaluation of the proposals, and they preferred Douglas Commons unanimously. And there were 3 city councilors on the Housing Committee, Jill Dewson, it was 3 city councilors on the Housing Committee, Jill Dewson, Pius Ali, and Kim Cook. And all of 3 of them preferred our proposal. And then it went to the Economic Development Committee again in this kind of, sort of joint process, which is a little bit messy in my opinion, that happens when the city is considering the disposition of city-owned land. It went to the Economic Development Committee, which is composed of was at the time composed of Justin Costa, Spencer Thibodeau, Tae Chong, your counselor, and Nick Mavadonis. And that committee voted 3-1 for Douglas Yards. So it created this like weird situation where basically, 4 city councilors had kind of weighed in behind our project, but 3 city councilors who served on the committee that actually, had authority over the disposition of land preferred the other project, expressed a preference for the other project, which all came to a head on Monday night when the full city council took up the 2 different proposals. And basically there was, since the Economic Development Committee had the authority and they had chosen the Douglas Yards project to recommend to the full city council, going into the evening, there was an order basically put before the full council to move the Douglas Yards project forward. And after some healthy debate and again some wonderful public comment from members of the Libbytown neighborhood, among others, in support of us, and a bunch of supporters of the other side as well, the city council took a vote, and by a margin of 5-4, it was Councillor Chung, Councillor Dewson, Cook, Ali, and then Councillor Ray from the East End, who all came out in support of our project. and the rest of the city councilors and the mayor came out in favor of, well, basically what the proposal was to amend what the city council was considering, to change it from Douglas Yards to Douglas Commons. And those 5 supported the amendment and the other 4 chose not to. So that passed narrowly. And then once that amendment occurred, what actually happened was it was a 7-2 vote with Mayor Snyder and Councilor Mavadones not, voting to not support our proposal. Though ultimately what happened is Mayor Snyder was, I think, tired at that time, because she later sent us an email saying that she had intended to vote for our proposal. So anyway, that's what happened on Monday, and that's kind of the sordid story of what happened in terms of our city's process.
Sounds like true sausage making.
It is, but I think in a lot of ways I think we're better for it. It forced us to really work through issues, and now we're now the real work begins. We still have to negotiate an actual purchase and sale agreement with the city, so that work will commence quickly, and we'll move forward with it. And then once that happens, we'll move into there's a rezoning process that will need to occur. And we'll, be reaching out to all of you to, I think, be a part of that process as we move forward with, trying to get the rezoning that we need, and then, move our design work forward. And once we know what we can do, we're gonna try to figure out exactly, what that looks like, and kind of take it from there. But we couldn't be more thrilled. We're so excited to be, working with the community here, and hopefully being able to bring you some great new neighbors with a built environment that, again, really complements everything around it. The existing housing, the fields, and all the other recreational amenities. So, maybe with that, I'll just sort of stop. And if anyone has questions, I'm happy to take them.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations. You guys really worked for it, I think. I'm curious, and you probably don't have a very specific answer, but is there any general kind of timeline you might be able to give us?
There is a timeline. It goes roughly like this. So we need to negotiate our agreement with the city. That will probably take us into January, hopefully, no later than that, of next year. And then, we'll go through the rezoning process, which, that itself will probably take, at a minimum, another 3 months, probably a little bit more than that, just to get through. And then, from there, once we've, so call it 3 to 5 months on the rezoning roughly. And then once we're past that, we'll have to go through the planning process with the city. And that's when we're going to really, Charlie, develop the actual specific plans and go through those of what's actually going to happen there. And that process can take sort of another, 6 to 9 months. And then with the financing that we're using, both for the limited equity co-ops as well as the low income housing tax credit rental building, there's a little bit of process that goes on there. That will tack on, another 9 months or so. So it's a ways out, I guess, is the short answer. I mean, we're really not going to be starting any construction work until, probably late 2022, and then we would be done in 2023. That's hopefully responsive to your question and what you were asking about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It'd be kind of fun if we could build a pump track while we're waiting for, construction. It's quite a bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it on the site, or if you want something that will survive, I think we could put it into our plans ultimately. That's why I'm really excited about the fact that you guys have some money to do some stuff in the meanwhile. And certainly you could have one that would live till 2022 if you wanted to just do some work, some guerrilla type work on our site. I don't think there'd be any problem with that, like kind of relative to what it sounds like the skaters have done with the broken down basketball court, right?
Yeah. No, I'm just
yeah,
sort of kidding.
What's a pump track? What did you say? What did you call it, Charlie?
You ride mountain bikes on it. It's like
Oh,
you
cool.
build like dirt mounds and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
They're pretty popular. But yeah, I don't know, Charlie. That might not what you want to have happening right on your.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of kidding, but it's sort of interesting how I find that where the skaters are, they're actually trying to distance themselves. I chatted with a couple of them, and they built a little bit of their own structures there. But there were some kids over the summer that were building some like jumps and stuff, and just messing around in that area. So yeah, I was just kind of kidding. Nick knows more about the pump track than I do. But there's a lot of BMX and that kind of thing.
Got it. So it's the whole bikers versus skaters thing. Yeah, I have to admit I don't know anything about it, but yeah. So it will be quiet, on the site, for a couple of years still, or not quite a couple of years, but into 2022 before we'd really be getting serious construction action happening.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for the team? I'm excited to see something happen at that site, even if it's going to take a year or two. I think it's going to.
It'll take a little while, but there will be a lot of planning happening, and we will be reaching out and looking forward to your involvement, because that's been a wonderful thing about this process to date, is just really working hand in hand with you folks and coordinating with everything else that's going on too. We do want to be involved, and we want this project to integrate well. I was tempted when Zach was talking about the $20,000 to bring up the whole Exit 5 stuff, but I know that's to your point, Maureen. You might as well focus on things you actually can get done before we all hit retirement age. But I mean, we love the site. We're so excited for it, and it's just, we hope we can bring some really great energy and some really great human beings, into your neighborhood. So really excited.
Awesome. And I like the idea of a list of like kind of almost like a wish list or a want list of things. Like, I don't know, maybe Zach, we can get like a Google Doc together or something of like what we like, things that we would want to earmark the money for, because we're going to get more in years to come as well. Theoretically, we'll be, once we get the money we've already gotten.
And since Liz left, I'll volunteer her, as the ambassador of our group. She's really good, I think, at creating those lists and helping prioritize and vision things through. And then I guess, her position on the committee, right, the neighborhood advisory committee or whatever it's called, probably can't hurt. And I guess I am thinking one of the things I heard Ed say was talking about getting different neighborhood groups potentially to join forces. And since she's a Parks Ag representative, I don't know if they've already spent their money, or St. John Valley sounds like they didn't even bother. There may be some ways to pull some more money together theoretically, if any of those folks would have interest in either the recreational amenities or whether or not we can make DOT move again. I know you did all that great work on Exit 5, and as Zach knows, I'm pounding on GPCOG all the time, and this is another point I'll make about the project is I am a transit guy at heart, and you folks have so many bus lines running through your neighborhood right along that Congress arterial there. I mean, let alone thinking about the Amtrak and Concord Coach. So I think there potentially could be some really interesting regional transit-oriented development thinking can do surrounding this project. So, more to come on that as well. But we'd love to stay involved. I think Liz and I have it in our nature where we want to make sure that we're doing everything in harmony with the types of goals you're trying to achieve in the neighborhood, and just slowing those cars down. Every time I drive on Congress Street, you know, through your neighborhood, passing through. I'm just, you know, I'm just always so disappointed about how that whole area works. So, you know, to the extent that the work we do somehow could influence, you know, improvements, I'd love to be a part of that as well. So
just as long as you're not disappointed at 50 miles an hour as you're driving through our neighborhood. So,
well,
I'm kidding.
yeah, no, I mean, it's just, you know, it's sad because like I have to deliberately remind myself to ramp it down because just the way it's designed, Fred, I mean, you know, 40 or 50 miles per hour is what, I mean, that's just like, if you're just driving through there and not thinking, like, that's what you do, you know?
Right.
So it's such a tragedy.
You should try having a couple of little girls standing on the sidewalk waiting for the bus on Congress Street in the morning.
I have had.
I have had. Scary as hell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bus driver, I don't know how the bus driver deals with it because it's 2-lane road. The other side of the road don't stop, and he's just laying on the horn nonstop.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So,
I don't even know why the city does it. It's dangerous, and I can't believe someone hasn't got hurt yet. I really am.
Well, there was somebody years ago. The reason they put the where Esposito's used to be and now Maria's is, they put that traffic light in because somebody was killed crossing Congress Street at that point. And that's like
that's why that traffic, that mid block, it's not to MDOT code. So remember Jeremiah Bartlett was like, oh yeah, what is that doing there? That shouldn't be there. That's why.
Yeah, so there have been,
well,
there
that's
was a
keep in
fatality
mind.
there years and years ago. So
maybe if I get a terminal illness, I'll take one for the team.
No.
Not necessary, Zach.
I mean, the problem
The Zach Memorial Bike Lane.
You could be our martyr. You could be a
and the
martyr.
bus
Yeah.
stop itself is the fact that they get bused all the way to Row, which they have to go by Ocean Ave. And of course, we lost our neighborhood school to begin with. They could walk to school if, you know, if they would have replaced the school there at the site originally. So it's definitely when everybody says this neighborhood's been neglected for years, it's been neglected for decades. And I didn't realize it until after I moved in.
I mean, I realized it when I saw the real estate prices. So. The I just like to say to Brian and everyone, I'm just so delighted with the outcome of this. You know, we went from having city staff recommend housing units to go over 100 now. I don't think there's another neighborhood in the city that would have embraced this. You know, particularly the neighbors abutting next door. So you know, that's just tremendous and unprecedented. And you know, I think Brian's team outreach was awesome, and I thought our process was really good. And the two together, just gave an extraordinary outcome. I mean, if you look at the opposition to housing like Freeport, that's just the norm. So I find it remarkable. Maybe there's some, maybe there's some other neighborhood that that something like this can happen again. Hopefully on Randall Street and Lambert Street as well, the other two sites. But
well, I think you're right, Zach. I mean, the enthusiasm you folks have all had, and again, I'll cite you, Charlie. I mean, the time and effort you put in, to making whatever Liz called it, your sort of, supportive ambivalence or whatever she called it, heard, but very, strongly heard it as an advocate for our project. I think you're right, Zach. I mean, there is a particular energy that Libby Town has. And keep in mind what the co-op will bring is, if it all goes the way we plan it to go, I mean, you will have, 50 plus new, families owning homes, in your neighborhood. And I think that will make a difference, on all the topics we've talked about, sort of the neglect of Dougherty Field, the safety issues and the real problems, with mobility, on Congress Street, and coming under, the MDOT, assets there. I think, having those new neighbors, joining forces with you, you're already strong organization to have, 50 more, ownership households, 50 plus more ownership households, let alone the other rental households. I think the ability to just be stronger and to make a stronger case, for fixing those problems, those legacy problems, I think it's all going to be a snowball, a great snowball effect, hopefully. And I think in the pre-construction phase, that's where we can work together, to promote the opportunity. So hope in 2023, you're going to have an opportunity to have, 100 new households, and many of them families based on the what we're building here, and 50 plus of those will be fellow, owners coming into your neighborhood, not just folks who are renting, people who are going to be planning to put a 20-year chip down, like you've talked about your chip, Charlie. You get the next generation of 20-year Douglas Street families coming in. And I think once we do that, the ability to mobilize and make a even stronger push for fixing all of these issues, the neglect and the problems with MDOT and everything else. I hope it all can be something that ends up making sense, and we will use your help in achieving that, and building the new neighbors, finding those families, and then I think having it all come together in terms of just these improvements that we've been talking about, which are long overdue. So thank you. Appreciate everything that's happened to date, and thank you for the time tonight. And really excited to keep working with you going forward.
Yeah, look forward to working with you guys. This is an exciting project.
Great. All right. Well, good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
So I have also on the agenda, Zach, you wanted to talk about the recode?
Yeah, I'll do it briefly.
Mm-hmm.
The recode has been a 3-year process. I've given updates. I think 3 years ago. It's supposed to be fulfilling the goals of the comprehensive plan. So phase 1 finally made its way to the council. The planning staff had made a recommendation to the planning board, which passed narrowly 4-3, and then that recommendation went to the council. My advocacy work with Liz and others, Wendy Cherubini, Tim Wells, Eric Freeman, and Carol Wilbur, we worked really hard on making the restrictions to housing less restrictive, and the city council adopted many of them in a sort of break with tradition or protocol. They did not take a lot of they contradicted staff's recommendations. So it will now be easier to build accessory dwelling units and to build housing without parking requirements. Some of the things didn't make it through. We talked a little bit on the listserv about setbacks. City staff, I mean, the meeting was so confusing and arduous that people just started to lose focus and concentration. But they said, oh, well, yeah, the setback thing, well, that's maybe just too big a change at this point. And so they wanted to leave that to phase 2 without quite realizing that, like, well, these setbacks in many cases don't make any sense in terms of how where people's garages are and where houses are. But I mean, all in all, by doing so, the council set a pretty clear direction, and hopefully phase two, city staff will, will understand that direction and make more positive changes, so, take a more progressive view of things, and so that we don't have these complicated meetings where these changes are being made on the fly. I'm happy to answer any more questions about it now or later or privately, as people are interested.
Yeah, I actually have a question about this. Sorry, the city staff piece. So is it Christine Gramanda? I mean, who was leading the charge on that? Not that it matters that much. But,
well, it's unclear. Christine and Nell were the main people on it. Matt Grooms also worked on it for planning staff. There may have been other members of city government who were pushing for a more modest approach.
And I think I would assume they were trying to do that because they felt like including the setback, like just getting the ADU ordinance passed was enough without throwing the setback issue in with it. They were risking not getting anything done, I think, was probably the perception.
No, they bifurcated. In other words, they pulled apart each of the proposals and voted on them separately.
Doesn't the lack of setbacks emasculate some of the ADU kind of forcefulness, I guess, or effectiveness?
Yes,
it does effectively, like when you look at it in reality. Yes, yeah, it absolutely does.
But the other thing is they were proposing also emasculated their feasibility of ADUs. So we got rid of limitations to size. We got rid of non-visible entrances. We got rid of owner occupancy requirements. I said on the basis of that's housing discrimination. Plus, you'd have to be crazy to build one if if you want to sell your place for the this owner occupancy requirement. There were things like the ADU has to be shielded. If you want to build a second ADU, it just has to be subordinate to the first one rather than have a detached one. So we got rid of a lot of these things. The main one we fell short on was that setback thing, because it was a big ask. We're going from like 30 feet or 20 feet to 5 feet, and councilors didn't really understand, what that meant.
Zach, if anybody wants to understand what the ridiculous setbacks mean in the city of Portland, they can come look at my house. The neighbors hate it. I hate it. It's 2.5 years old, and it's literally set right in the middle of the lot. I have a 20-foot backyard and a 50-foot front yard. It's ridiculous. It doesn't match the neighborhood at all.
Did you just build new?
Yeah, I'm on 32 Massachusetts, and I just
built. Is your house on the left there as you're coming in from Congress?
Yep, the one that's straight up. Yep.
Yeah, we as planning nerds, we've often looked at your house and wondered how.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I didn't realize I lived on St. John Street for almost a decade before we entered into a contract to buy this house. And what we did was we made the mistake of we entered into a contract with the builder, which I recommend no one ever do. Always go buy your own house lot first, and then you can argue with the city on how, at least then you can have some kind of conversation with the city on how it's going to look. But when you go in with the builder just does exactly what the city's going to tell them to do.
Right.
Because they don't care. They just want the house to go up. And I didn't know that. And then when I show up and see that it's in a ridiculous spot and the neighbors are like, why is the builders actually told me that all the neighbors around are like, why are you building it there? And they just looked at us and because that's where the city told us we had to put it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's a beautiful house, don't get me wrong. And
it's just
great,
they totally, if they just could offset it like the rest of the houses, and made them look and put the driveway up the side like the house on each side, it just would have looked a lot better, and it would have gave us a better backyard. And it's just, they don't think things through. They just look at stuff on paper, and they don't realize how the real world works. I don't know.
Hopefully you can infill. Maybe you can infill with an ADU in the front side yard.
Yeah, I'm turning the front yard into like raised bed gardens.
Nice.
And of course, the backyard's so close to the trees that we have nice big trees back there that are in between the two streets that I hate to do it, but I'm going to do artificial turf because I can't grow. I have two little kids that are running around back there. I can't grow grass. It's just going to be odd. So I think artificial.
Another thing on the recode was they removed a lot of the parking requirements on places that were half a mile from a transit route. So it's like, okay, great. And then someone actually went ahead and mapped it. And so, you know, most of the stuff in town is covered, but then a lot of it in the outer legs of these transit routes isn't. So it's like, well, all right. I mean, that's kind of where the parking is most plentiful because of, you know, low density. But then in sort of the Deering Highlands triangles made by 3 transit routes and Rosemont, there were these tiny little islands of that were not within a quarter mile, maybe 1 or 2 lots. There were three of them if you look very closely. And so, you know, no one, you know, another 8 feet and it would have been in it, but no one had looked at this. And so, you know, not only are these people within a half mile or quarter mile and 15 feet from a transit route, but they're a quarter mile and 15 feet from 3 transit routes. So it's just this sort of, I don't know. I'll just say, well, I won't say lazy because they do work hard. They just don't have time to, you know, do a full and proper analysis.
All right.
Oh.
Thank you for the update and for doing all that good work. Appreciate it. So I don't really have anything else. You had also talked about turkey swap. Or
yeah, I had this idea.
Stuff.
If one whole turkey is a lot for a small household, I was thinking of getting one and cutting it in half. I watched the YouTube video on doing that. So I was wondering if anyone wants to go in on a turkey. I'm not a $6 a pound turkey person. I personally am.
How high are you willing to go?
Pound turkey.
How much? I'm sorry.
The 39 cent a pound turkeys.
Yeah, I won't. I've been a $4 or $5 guy. I mean, I've been buying it from the same folks for a while, and the same reason we're not going to do a full-on Thanksgiving this year, but I can't go 39 cents.
Well, I mean, so that's but maybe someone else wants the other half of your turkey.
Okay. Or maybe I'll just do
cook a half a turkey though.
Charlie, I like that you are enjoying this item.
Tofurkey? How about tofurkey? I'll split a tofurkey with you.
All right, I'm going to put it on the listserv. See if anyone wants a half a turkey.
I'm just going to buy a smaller turkey.
You can get just the breast, but then you don't get the good dark meat.
We make turkey pies and freeze them.
My freezer's already packed, so it's like.
All right, that's all I have. Unless anybody has any agenda items they'd like to tack on the end.
I was just going to repeat that Eric Anderson and I are meeting to review bids or proposals from natural playground equipment manufacturers that have bid on the playscape in the park. And I believe we're meeting next week. I get to look at my calendar. There's a lot going on, but so we're looking forward to that. So that's moving forward.
That's great.
Well, I've got something that's potentially relevant, but it's a little bit further out on the horizon. So as most of you know, I work for the city of South Portland, and just a couple of nights ago, the council there voted to adopt effectively an all organic fertilizer ordinance as a companion to the pesticide ordinance that they established a few years back. And many, or some of you may know that Portland followed suit with its own pesticide ordinance after South Portland established it. And it's pretty likely that Portland will also follow suit with an organic only fertilizer ordinance as a companion to their pesticide ordinance. So I talked to Troy Moon about that maybe a couple of months ago, and he's been tracking what we've been doing in South Portland. So it's pretty likely that that city of Portland will also be largely organic only for land care management.
Cool.
Oh, I see Sam Zager is on the call. He wants to give an update.
Hey everyone. I don't have. First of all, thank you for holding these. These are great meetings, and I also appreciate the listserv stuff. Although I can't say I have use for half a turkey this year, but I'm just very excited about the news about the co-op, and I don't have any updates from Augusta, except that the votes, the new legislature will get sworn in on December 2nd. There is the ideas are being generated for bills for the upcoming term. So if somebody does have something that they want to talk about, I know Zach and I have had a couple interactions offline. Reach out to me, samzager@gmail.com, or you go to samzager.org, and my contact details are there.
Hey, thanks for coming, and congratulations.
Sam, when is the Secretary of State get voted on? I know it's a surprisingly
December 2nd.
race.
Yes, it's a
December
very
2nd.
competitive race. December 2nd. It's the first day that everyone's sworn in.
Huh. That's funny. Yeah. Suddenly everyone wants to be Secretary of State.
Yeah, I've been talking to the candidates for that, and there's a lot of really great candidates. I see it kind of as a good sign that that there's a lot of interest in voter participation and making sure that we enfranchise as many eligible voters as possible. So I think that that's probably the sign of a healthy democracy, to have so many people interested in that. And it's also, I've been seeing a lot of interest, among just the general public. It's really kind of cool.
Well, someone I know in government said that the idea that the Secretary of State is voted on by the legislature might not be the best method, because either it should be voted on by the people or be appointed by the governor. But to have them kind of recalled takes, intensive lobbying to all however many members there are. So I thought that was sort of interesting. And I don't think, the legislators feel particularly powerful to be able to have, one of 65 votes to elect a Secretary of State. So, it doesn't really give anyone, much of a, much influence. So there's a bill.
Yeah. I don't know I've lived in other states where Secretary of State is elected by the people, so I hear what you're saying, and I am not familiar with the relative merits of either. I haven't seen it close enough, I guess, is what I would say to have a strong opinion on that. because it's it could work well in more than one fashion. But I just like with the direct election of senators, which was federal U.S. senators was changed 100 years ago. I don't see why it wouldn't be a good idea to switch our what we do in Maine for Secretary of State.
Yeah, or be appointed by the governor.
Or be appointed, yeah.
I've been thinking about, off topic from Secretary of State, how everybody decorated for Halloween. I don't know what it was like on the other side of 295, but a lot of people up on this side decorated a lot for Halloween. I think because of the lack of trick-or-treating, like people like put up lights and stuff. And I was thinking about putting something out on the listserv and like encouraging people to do like Christmas lights this year. I think it'd be really cool if like Libby Town was all lit up, and I'll put something about it on Instagram maybe. I don't know. I'm feeling like trying to generate some festivity this holiday might be nice, since nobody can go anywhere or do anything and everything is awful. So
my mind jumps back to the lighting at the Denny's traffic triangle that's not to be
not to be touched. Certainly we could put something temporary, right?
a fire.
I don't know. Just trying to think of things to make the neighborhood more festive. But we'll see. Maybe people will turn it out this year. On that note.
Yeah, throw it on Facebook. I
yeah,
mean,
I was thinking about it.
Can't be any less popular than my turkey shares.
There was a Christmas lights contest in the town I grew up in that was very cutthroat, and someone actually fell off their roof trying to like put up like Clark Griswold style, like all the lights, and was injured.
I remember going neighborhoods in Brooklyn where they would go crazy, and people would go, drive out to Sheepshead Bay or whatever it was to to look at
all the
people's
lights.
lighting. The bills can be pretty high, apparently.
Yeah, you have to get. It's better. LEDs are cheaper though.
Yeah.
Than the regular ones. Anyway.
And they're not Christmas lights, by the way. They're really pagan.
Almost everything about Christmas is, right?
Yeah, I was in a church, ironically enough, because I'm more or less Jewish, and I'm looking at all these pine boughs. I'm like, what do these pine boughs have to do with the birth of Christ? Just pagan.
So I'm going to put this in the notes that we're going to have, just to make sure you guys are paying attention, and I'll tell you ahead of time. It'll be our next guest speaker for the next meeting will be Reverend Billy from the Church of Stop Shopping.
Oh yeah, I know. I remember him. And the Hanukkah myth is also taken, also borrows from the pagan tradition. Those lights. Apparently, there's nothing about lights associated with that.
Zach, are you still on the radio? Do you still have a radio show?
No, I just.
Okay. Yeah, we got to get you back on the radio.
I just vent.
I can listen to this for hours.
So pagan Christmas, it's happening. Libbytown lights.
Speaking of which, are we going to have a meeting next month, or are we going to skip because of Christmas, or
according to our current schedule, it would fall on the 15th, 16th. Which I'm not going anywhere.
I mean, I'm fine with meeting next month. I mean,
I don't know how you guys feel about it. If we want to take a month
December
off.
16th?
16th, December 16th.
Yeah,
Zach will have some turkey soup.
Is that Kwanzaa? Wait.
It is not anything according to my calendar.
Okay.
Although, I hope Kwanzaa's on here. Kwanzaa is the 26th. So yeah. It's far enough away from Christmas that I suppose it won't be too much of an imposition. Plus.
Yeah, it sounds fun. So.
Kwanzaa's actually a pretty cool holiday. I'm a Festivus person. But
Well, we'll have it. Well, I'll write an airing of grievances on the next agenda so that
yeah.
you can celebrate your holiday.
Why is this night different from? Why is this association different from all other neighborhood association meetings?
Oh man.
Hey, so how about that election?
Oh, the referendum questions from the local point of view.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of wringing of hands and gnashing of teeth, and then it
But-
was
Read in the
also
Portland Press.
happy people.
I just read in the Portland Press the Green New Deal is going to add $6 million to the new school rebuilds.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Actually, maybe it's the sky is falling, or maybe there's some cost that'll be associated with it.
I've already written several letters to Susan Collins.
Mm.
There's lots of forums
My new hobby.
are happening about these referendum. I was at one meeting about the rent regulations. The Portland Society for Architecture is having a meeting tomorrow at 1 about the new regulations. The Chamber of Commerce did Eggs and Issues, which you can see online, about minimum wage. They had Jim Cohen moderated with Mary Costigan and some labor lawyer,
Interesting.
who I can't remember his name, but he looked just like Alan Rickman. It was nice. So if people are interested, there's lots. But it was in a kind of early phase with these things. I think a lot of people just don't know very much, and the information is largely speculative. But I was happy to I was out in Monument Square on Saturday. Biden was declared winner.
Yeah, me too. I must have missed you there. I was there earlier in the day. I think it got a little bit more raucous and well attended, but there was a lot of traffic streaming up and down Congress Street. I was right across the street from the library.
Oh, I didn't see it. Yeah, the traffic was there for hours and hours and hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really remarkable.
Yeah, I was working, but I saw the videos. People were texting them to me.
So you may know this. It was pointed out to me that there was an article yesterday in the Press Herald about the council choosing housing for plans on the site we just talked about. If you want to look at that. It looks like it was yesterday's paper.
There's a Press Herald article and there's a Main Biz article as well that actually has a plan view in it.
Yeah, someone pointed out, because I guess I was quoted, and so was my neighbor, John Bradstreet.
Yep.
So.
Oh, check that out.
Was it Randy Billings?
It looks Michael Kelly. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So.
Nick, are you anticipating, or are you already sort of seeing like substantive changes to the site plan?
The West School site plan, or are you talking about? No, nothing yet. Yeah, we're not really doing anything yet. Yeah, as Brian said, they have to work through the purchase and sale agreement, and then so a lot of financial stuff, and then we have to go into the zoning map amendment. So there's quite a bit of pre-design work to do before we put pen to paper again.
Another thing, you may know this also, but there was a meeting held last summer in regards to the Kiwanis pool. It was held by the city at the city facility, or whatever that is, on Parks and Rec. Yeah, exactly. They hosted a meeting basically about how it's becoming old and it will be needing some refurbishing. So that, I think that's interesting, and again, an amazing amenity to have right there. It's a 25 meter swimming pool, which could be outfitted to be also the other direction, 25 yard swimming pool, which is a regulation side for USA swim meets. The potential for that outdoor swimming pool is really large, not realized by the city whatsoever. But it'd be a terrific place for like an invitational to outfit it for USA swim meets in the summertime would be, I guarantee, would be greatly used and attended. So I think that's another thing that we might want to think about and capitalize on if we can.
Yeah, I was at that meeting. It was an interesting meeting. That they need a new tank, is the term.
It's an interesting thing. It's a steel tank in the ground. Yeah, and I guess it's lasted longer than they thought it would. So I don't know. I mean, my hope is they don't just fill it in and say the heck with it, which is what I would sort of expect the city to do. But they didn't. They almost did at another point, and they didn't. So.
What do you mean fill it in?
Well, there was a lot of like, it's expensive. Pools don't make any money. So there was some, it needed some work. The deck was redone not too long ago. The pool house was redone also, which was supposed to offer bathroom facilities for the field to be used like on other places, and that didn't ever happen. So that, to Little League and all the, as Nick can say, the field's used a lot. It's very, and there are not any bathroom facilities there. But anyway, just that about the pool.
Yeah, I know the city manager. He told me once that when he was a little kid and he was just sent to the pool in lieu of having a babysitter, and he just loved it, and he got swim trunks to match the lifeguards, and he when he saw the Kiwanis pool, he saw all the unrealized potential of it, and really wants to renovate it. I suspect those plans on the back burner, and being that he's not going to be around too much longer, likely shelved until the next manager, in terms of having a nice a big fancy facility there, but it was discussed.
Mm-hmm. There is a community of people that are invested in that. I mean, I know the Swim to the Porpoises use it. There's a lot of master swimmers that use it that are somewhat organized, and they're a group of doctors and lawyers and people that are perhaps interested in making contributions to improving the facility.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about like a Friends of Doherty Field, friends of their skate park, friends of the pool, friends of the playground. It's just, then there's also the meeting with the Little League, the soccer is, so many, complementary interests, but no real coordination.
It sounded like Liz was maybe interested in trying to kind of bring that together. I think they all can complement each other really well. And they're all stakeholders in the same piece of property. And it's, I think one of the things that's exciting about the cooperative, I think that there's potential for them to both complement each other really nicely, in that it builds community and it's a great facility, and that the possibility of Doherty Fields to be improved with the Douglas Commons, I think, is a greater possibility now. It's not ever been realized by the city, and in fact, it's fairly neglected. So, I'm all in favor of capitalizing, for my own selfish reasons, because my property abuts it, but I also think it's a terrific resource with probably just more coincidentally, with the skate park and the ball fields and soccer, and that it's good. Really, I think it's right in Libbytown. I think it really is something to be capitalized on for the community.
And actually, it can add potential for cross-country skiing.
Mm-hmm. I've often thought about how expensive is it to sort of flood it for ice skating, or to set something up so that it could be done maybe even in a permanent way, so that in the wintertime it could, there's a place that could be flooded for ice skating, given the conditions are good.
There's I always look at that low spot in Douglas Street. There's a kind of valley that drops down in the center, and it's reflected in the park, also kind of swales down, and that often floods, it holds water for a period of time. You could excavate, take some material out of there and deepen it a little bit, and then use it for all the berms that we've been talking about in the playground. To me, that's like a no-brainer. If we could just get coordinated, between these various projects and interests, you could have this bioswale, cool rain garden that you fill up, you let it freeze, and you have a small, pond hockey area. And then in the summer, it becomes a beautiful rain garden, and you have these berms, and it could be really cool.
That's awesome. That'd be an awesome idea.
Yeah. I mean, there's no shortage of things we could do and ideas that we can implement. I think I'm just really proud of the neighborhood. I think everyone's really open-minded and energetic, and everyone's bringing ideas, and I think we'll get there. I'm really excited about the momentum that we have. I think the co-op will help bring some energy and some focus from the city on our neighborhood too. So, and some investment.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll add, some diversity. Not to say that we don't have a lot of diverse ideas, but maybe some, just more ethnic diversity and age diversity, and that'll be a real benefit, I think.
More voices. Yeah, more voices at the table. So, yeah, I agree.
I'm always pleased to see how many people are YIMBY around here. People want positive change and are open to new stuff. And I'm always really happy when I see how people contribute to these kinds of meetings.
I floated this idea with my wife, and she immediately nixed it. But just given the homelessness, I said, why can't we just let people set tents up in our yard? And she didn't like that idea so much. So
give them half a turkey.
Tofurkey. Sorry, Todd, were you going to say something?
I was just curious, when you guys were talking about flooding an area for skating, I was always wondering, I've never understood why the Parks and Rec doesn't have a thing where they actually flood Deering Oaks Duck Pond. I've skated on
that. I thought
a
that
lot.
too, actually. Doesn't make sense.
I thought they used to do that.
We used to skate on, when I was a kid in the 80s, we skated on.
I've skated on it, but it's never because it's been flooded. It's just because it was just right. Just because nature did it just right. It wasn't because the city.
They lined it a bunch of years ago, though. I don't know. Maybe Nick, you know about the structural aspect of it, but Charlie mentioned flooding the pool, and I know flooding the pool would have some kind of a structural impact if with expansion of the ice. I don't know. Maybe there's.
I didn't mean flooding the pool. I meant just flooding an area on the Doherty Field.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, I didn't mean.
I grew up outside of Bangor, and my grandfather had a big farm with a farm pond, and he would just take his gas-powered pump that he used to fill his farm equipment with, and he would flood the pond when it was snow out and he knew it was going to be cold. He would just flood the pond, and us kids would go down there, and it would be perfect.
Oh yeah, there was rock.
Go to Deering Oaks and do that every time they go. Oh, we're going to have a real big cold spell. They could just go hook up to a fire hydrant and just flood that whole pond, and it would just be a mirror the next day.
Yeah, well, like Nick was saying, I guess that pond. I skied on the pond as a kid, and there's a cheesy Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston movie where they were skiing.
Preacher's Wife.
Yeah. There you go. So I don't know if it was cheesy. It was okay, I guess.
Did they actively flood it? Did they go out there and just pump water on top? Or
yeah, for sure.
They haven't done that since I've lived here.
But I think part of it I think they did a bunch of stormwater improvements there like 10 or so years ago, and I'm pretty sure they mucked it out and
they just mucked it out a few years ago.
Yeah, they may have lined it, so I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it. But they drain it every year now, as you know. But the clubhouse, or what used to be like a warming hut, you used to be able to rent skates there. You could rent the skates, and you could skate on the pond, and not so many years ago. So
I think parks in Montreal, they have some built-in. They're just kind of like cement. I know there was one where there's like a big bandstand in the middle, and then a big depression around it. that they just fill in the winter, and it becomes like, yeah, you skate through the park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a park in Minnesota that it's won a bunch of landscape architectural awards. It's actually like an ice skating trail. So it's like this big ribbon, this big frozen ribbon through the park. And you can kind of skate along this like carriage road. It's pretty cool. There's no shortage of good ideas out there.
We used to skate rivers when I was a kid, but I wouldn't recommend doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I was gonna say this, so but Charlie will kick me the next time he sees me. So Charlie, when I was a kid, and Kiwanis Pool was a place to have fun, but I was kind of a stoner kid, and we'd hang out on the tracks behind St. James Street, and we would jump the fence at night, and we'd swim in Kiwanis Pool. So we were kind of.
Yeah, I know. I've heard lots of stories. I've heard this is crazy. If you've ever been there, kids riding bicycles off of the roof into the swimming pool.
That does me one better for sure. I didn't do
that. Sounds like yeah, that's a trip to the emergency room.
Yeah.
At that meeting, the parks people said, yeah, it's a big issue of kids are always jumping in the pool at night.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, whatever. It's not that. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it's okay, but the vandalism would be a problem. But I mean, we don't want to allow it. But it's really hard to keep those, you know, keep them out. It's interesting how they tend to go under the fence. I've noticed, and there's all these.
Maybe that's encouraging. Maybe their kids are getting a little smarter.
Maybe, yeah. But it's lit up like a Christmas tree most of the time. So it's not. It wouldn't be. I can't imagine it's that easy to really get in there without being noticed. But you know, another thing about the field, you mentioned cross country skiing, is I know that the popularity of Nordic skiing is really growing, especially in the middle schools. And I don't know what it would take, but to have just a little bit of grooming of the field, given the right conditions. And if you talk to the right people, they might just do it for free. You know, there's a couple of guys that groom the golf course. I know the coach of the middle school program, and they groom the
Riverside.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. So anyway, you know, that would be something that I know would be close for people and would probably be fairly well used if it were groomed. Like skate skiing has become really popular for those, you know, Nordic skate skiing.
That's an awesome idea. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Groomed. And I mean, to me, that sounds, I don't know the details of it. To me, that sounds like a relatively low cost kind of thing. And of course, it is condition dependent, but I think that a lot of people would probably use that. Is my guess. But
cool.
Yeah, I'm thinking of using it, and I've been on skis twice in my life.
Well, once someone goes around once or twice, then you've got a track and you're good to go. But it would be really cool if, you know, if the high school ski teams were using it. You know, again, it's just more attention to the field, and I think that's really going to be overall good. You know, just like the skate park, I think overall the fact that it's getting more people to use the facility is going to, I want to believe, is going to be good for all the facilities that are there. But anyway, I really appreciate all of you coming together, and yeah, so I'll try to stay tuned.
Yeah. I think that'll be interesting to see it all unfold. I'm excited about it. So, all right, everyone, I need to sign off. Anyone have any last words?
Thanks for humoring our random conversation.
Oh, it's fine. I love hearing it, you know. I have great hopes for Doherty Field. I think, you know, I think everyone in this group anyway sees it as a really precious commodity that we hope we can extract as much potential out of as possible. So we'll just keep working toward it.
congratulating each other, I'll say, yeah, I mean, as an early attempt to form Libbytown way back when and not getting anywhere, I'm super psyched just to see how much energy and all the great work that's being done now. So it's definitely gratifying and humbling, and yeah, let's keep on doing it. So thanks to everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving, by the way, whatever.
Yeah, everyone have a great Thanksgiving and enjoy your half of a turkey, Zach. I'll take a drumstick.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody.
All right, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good night.